Okay, what is early extension in the golf swing? Technically, early extension, if we draw our lines, is a line from the top or the back of the pelvis, from address to the top of the backswing. Now from here, we expect as we come down into that follow through, that our back hip takes up that space as we follow through into that swing, and we don't create any space between where the line started and then where we are here. So we don't want to see any space opening up through there. Oftentimes what happens is we draw that line through there, is that as we come up through the backswing, is our right hip does a good job of staying in that space, but as we come down, we early extend and we lose space between our pelvis and that back and that downswing, right? So what happens is this left hip doesn't rotate around it to take up that space as we swing through here like this, but instead we extend forward and out. So some things that we need to think about pelvis and the mechanics there at the pelvis is we can start thinking about what muscles are used to control the pelvis. We have the core, but we also have the glutes, and that's what usually gets forgot about in the golf swing. So what we need is for the glutes and the core to help control this anterior and posterior tilt of the pelvis. So think forward and backward, kind of dumping of that pelvis, but we also need it to control this rotation. With this left foot being in a closed chain position, which means it's contact in the ground. If I contract this glute, this foot just kind of won't move, right? So instead of moving the foot and the femur, what this glute can do is it moves the pelvis, right? So we can either move the pelvis open up, or we can use the other glute to do the opposite, to move the pelvis this way. Okay, so what that looks like in the golf swing, what we need to reintroduce to the golfer is the ability to use this hip not only to control this posterior and anterior orientation here of the pelvis, this forward and backwards, but also the rotation at the pelvis, so that we can use it after we draw our early extension line, that we can use it to contract this left glute. So on the downswing, we're pulling this pelvis back and towards us here, right? So what that does is it allows us to keep that space like we've been asked to do so. It helps keep this pelvis back, and it produces force that we can drive through in that front leg without leaking or moving or shifting forward, but instead keeps us back and powerful. Okay, so what we need to do is reintroduce that glute to do that role in the golf swing.